button. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webinar of Parenting Children with Special Needs in a New Reality. We are really excited to have a very special guest with us here today, Leo Erickson. And before we get started, and before I let him tell himself a little bit about you, or about him, sorry, I'm looking at Leo on the screen, a little bit about himself, I wanted to just remind you that tomorrow we have a special education lawyer who's going to be talking with us about some of the new updates that have been done in Connecticut that you really need to know when you're thinking about documentation and tracking and things to be aware of in your upcoming PPT meetings and as you continue to advocate and support your child over the next year. So tune in tomorrow, Thursday, 12 o'clock. To hear all the fantastic things she has to say. And then on Friday, Dr. Terry DeLisa is going to be back again, and we are going to do more of an interview format to talk about collaborative problem solving. So if you are just tuning in, I want to remind you that our goal is to make sure there are as many people as possible who get to benefit from all the great interviews and information that we're sharing. So if you are live now, I want you to hit the share button on the in this video post, and I want you to start a watch party on your timeline or in a group that you belong to so that we can share today's interview with everyone who really could benefit from all the exciting things that Leo is going to talk with us about today. So on that note, I am going to turn the floor over to Leo and have him introduce himself so that he can share a little bit about himself before we get started with our questions. Leo, take the stage.
Okay. I am a very social and extroverted and outgoing person who loves a lot of attention. I live in New York City, love to ride the subways around New York City and the trains, of course, and love to go to the suburbs as well, but I love to explore New York City and the suburbs and the sights. And most of all, I love to socialize with my friends and family and increase and expand my social networking group and connections.
So what are you excited about as far as presenting and being on this webinar today?
Presenting who I am and how it will come back gradually soon enough, and what I've been doing during this time of the stupid COVID-19 pandemic.
So I actually want to share with everybody that you are taking some public speaking classes now, right?
That's
and
right.
I'm taking an author. Do you want to tell everybody what you're writing about?
What am I in my public speaking class?
In your book that you're writing.
Oh, I'm writing a book about autism and other special needs and illnesses and how I grew up with it and how I thrived and excelled with it and how others can as well. And defining what each special need is.
Amazing.
And of course, when the book comes out, you can interview me about that.
All right, I will definitely have you back for when the book is released. That's very exciting.
Great, and maybe even in person.
So you live in New York City. So what was your initial reaction when you were told that you had to shelter in place and you couldn't go out and see your friends or go to school?
First, I was angry and confused and upset and devastated and felt like the government was trying to limit my rights, even though he wasn't. Or I felt like I was cooped up in my house and was grounded or something.
Yeah. So it was a pretty big shock in the beginning, huh?
It was a big shock in the beginning, absolutely, and it all came very suddenly.
Mm-hmm. But you're a pretty extroverted person, and that's a really positive trait that you have because you seem to have a pretty big Facebook social network going.
Yes, I love my Facebook social networking, absolutely.
So did you reach out to other people to kind of get a little help and support when it all happened?
Yes, I absolutely did. And that really felt good because not only was I expressing my feelings to my friends and not only was I getting responses back for them, but good responses that they were very proud of me and the way I'm handling this and really trying, and that soon enough, we'll all get together again and resume a somewhat normal life. Soon enough, when it's safe to do so.
Yeah, so you got a lot of positive encouragement. But then phase two, you had to figure out what to do with yourself since you couldn't be out and about like you normally do. So,
right, I had to see myself.
Yeah, so you kind of and we'll come back to this later, but you kind of had to learn to adapt, right? So what did you start telling yourself to help you get in a better place?
Yes, I definitely had to learn to adapt, and I had to tell myself that this was not forever and that I can do things to occupy myself in this time, and that when this is over, I'm going to gradually build back my life and do the things I love, see the people I love, and know how proud of me everyone is and how good things are going to come into my future. Some that were already planned, some that were not planned and are coming because of this stupid COVID pandemic.
Amazing. So what did you start doing now that you're stuck in the house? What are some of the things that you're doing now to fill your day?
Well, I've started doing more FaceTimes and phone calls with people, playing some guitar and playing games with my sister in particular, playing more pool with my dad, and I'm improving my skills so I can beat my teenage friends the next time I see them. And I've also been going for super long 2-hour walks because that's where I think the deepest thoughts and also when I'm in the shower.
Awesome. Awesome. And we talked about that a little bit before, that it's when you kind of shut down and you get away from, all the connections and the internet and Facebook that's so easy to get sucked into. That's when you can kind of get your best ideas and think about what you're going to do next. So what about like school and online classes? How are you feeling about those?
I'm feeling not too great about doing online classes because it's not communal at all and internet can go out and they're not right there in person to help you. However, it's manageable in some way or another, and I'm still learning, and that way I don't have to go to summer school. LOL.
That's true. I wasn't thinking about that, but nobody wants to keep going to summer school or get an extended school year because you had a big long break. So
not at all.
Easier or harder to do the online schooling?
Definitely harder because you're not in a community with people and internet can run out and you can easily get distracted with other tabs on the computer. And even though I don't love school in general, doing virtual school is definitely showing my appreciation for what I do appreciate about regular school.
Okay. So what are the things that you missed, or maybe you didn't realize how much you appreciated them until they were gone?
My friends and teachers at school, but also the learning opportunities there and some of the acting classes I take there because a group comes in twice a week, and also just being in person and doing some artwork for an art show. I was looking forward to that, but I will have to wait till next year for that.
Yeah, so it's kind of good, like, because some people really are not fans of going to school, and you're not and you're a pretty extroverted guy, so you like to be social when you're there. But I know we have a lot of parents who have kids that maybe didn't love going to school in the morning, but now are kind of thinking the same way you are. Oh, maybe it wasn't so bad because I actually got to do things and see people that I like. So um, when things get hard or when it gets a little frustrating or you feel like you're getting a little bit too distracted, what are some strategies that you use to kind of help yourself get back to a good place for learning?
Breathing, of course, and doing meditation because I now have a meditation teacher ever since December and my dad's babysitter. And I am also trying to determine myself knowing what the positive outcome will be.
Your dad's
Awesome.
Right, my dad's former babysitter, but he can still use her at times.
Okay. Don't worry, I make mistakes all the time. We just laugh and keep going.
I've also been exercising a lot and running.
Nice. So you'll be in really good shape by the time you go back to school. No one
Yeah, for sure.
So when people are allowed to start going out again, what do you think is going to change about the way you do things?
Well, I'm still going to do my usual city stuff, and I'm not going to necessarily distance my friends anymore, but what I mean is I'm gonna have the normal interactions with my friends the way I always have, but I'm still gonna continue to distance from strangers, and I'm not really gonna fly anywhere for a while. I'm just gonna go places on regional rail, such as New Haven, Boston, Philadelphia, Cape Cod, etc., and stuff along those lines.
Yeah, so people people don't know how much you love to travel on trains. Do you want to give them a little bit of insight into your passion?
Yeah, exactly. I love to travel on trains. I take the subway everywhere in New York, even one-stop places, and I always take the commuter train out and back in, no matter what. And traveling on the trains is fun because it just is. And also, if you take trains like Metro North to like New Haven or up the Hudson, and you look out the right window, you can see some beautiful, beautiful views. And if you're going to like Long Island, that view on the double decker trains calms me down so much.
Nice. So he's a train guy. That's something Leo is missing a lot right now. But when he goes back, you'll keep like I think you mentioned keeping the social distance from strangers, still being able to be close to friends. How are you going to try to protect yourself in terms of when you do ride public transportation to minimize your germ exposure?
Yeah, when I'm on the trains and the subways, I'm going to wear masks and gloves and maybe even goggles to protect myself. And I'm not going to touch any poles or surfaces except sitting down.
All right. Sounds like a good plan. And hopefully, as we get back to normal, we won't need all those things forever. But I think we'll all probably be a little more aware about washing our hands more often.
Yeah, exactly. Before any physical contact with someone, I would definitely wash my hands. And for some circumstances, maybe even jump in the shower first.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Especially if you've been on the subway or riding the trains all day.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are you going to change some of the things that you used to do, or maybe add some new things into your activities that you kind of started doing during the pandemic that you weren't doing before?
Well, I'm definitely going to have some more Zoom parties for people who live far away because I won't be able to travel so far. But with new adventures, I also might like go camping or to the beaches more often with keeping a distance from strangers.
Awesome. So now we get to our parent advice. Do you have any advice for parents who maybe have younger children or maybe teenagers that 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 will help them support their kids better during this time?
Yes, definitely. Like accommodate kids a little more, give them time to do things that make them happy that you used to limit more when there was school and normal life. Reward them with stuff they want to do, both that was planned and you can even add some new things, but also more or less, more to the point, reward them with pride and encouragement and positive feedback that will help them stay strong and have other family members and friends do the same. Remember, you only have each other, so support with siblings and parents and making time for those activities is really, really important. In addition to the fact that you need to be flexible and take turns making choices so that the child has some control and you build in free time with no demands, but also so that they have a somewhat structure. And remember that kids don't like being controlled. So encouraging them and giving them choices is very important.
So
And giving them special treats, of course.
has your relationship with your sister shifted at all since you guys have been doing more games and whatnot together?
Yes, it has shifted a lot because we have been having more time together and have been playing more games and spending more time together, talking more and getting along so much better than ever before.
So before, you and your sister weren't always kind of near each other, right?
Right, because I'm busy with my stuff, she's busy with her stuff, but whenever we're together, we always get along. For the most part, of course,
Yeah,
that is.
and I think you're also talking to a lot of parents who are constantly running to all their therapy sessions and dance classes and sporting events that they probably are in the same boat. Their children don't always spend a whole lot of time together. So they might be kind of learning how to, do more free play and find activities to do in the house when before, like you said, everyone was kind of busy doing their own thing. So it's a good opportunity to build your relationship with your siblings that we didn't have before. So what about, you mentioned that families and whatnot really should be giving their kids positive feedback and encouragement. So homeschooling can be pretty frustrating as a parent if your kid is having trouble getting the work done, having trouble doing the Zoom classes or finishing things. So what do you think are ways that they could kind of encourage their kids and help them through it?
Yeah, for sure. All of what you're saying is totally true. And what they could do is encourage them to focus on virtual school and homeschool because by telling them what good thing could happen to them after the virtual school day is over and tell them that maybe that it would only happen if they did virtual school,
Okay.
which I could, of course, use for myself. And also, even if this isn't related, a piece of advice to parents are if both during the pandemic and in general, if kids make mistakes, to not punish them, but to help them take responsibility.
Yeah, and so in taking responsibility, you mean kind of like guide them to improve for the next time?
Yes, and knowing what they did, helping them be aware of why they did it, and how they can do better next time and not make the same mistake without really punishing them. And that's a better way of learning than giving a punishment. I've done both things, but now we do more responsibility taking because that's what really helps me learn and improve by far, especially this year.
So that's actually a good question. What happens, you said both things have happened to you. What happens when you get kind of the negative feedback and people are getting frustrated because you're having trouble?
They could
Like what happens to you? What's your feeling when that happens?
I feel like that is a good question, but I will say that I feel like I'm let down sometimes and feel like people don't love me even though they know they do. And I wish they would more focus on the positive aspects of me, which they usually do.
Mm-hmm. And you're a very positive person. So even when you get upset, a lot of people know you've got this really positive side to you that if you tap into it, then it helps you shine a little brighter.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So,
that's probably the best thing you ever asked me.
So you also mentioned kids don't like being controlled, that they'd rather have more choices. So again, if you've got a parent who's very good at they really want to help their kids stay on track and they want to help them get their work done, but they're being a little bit too, let's say, controlling or too task oriented. What would you say that could maybe help them back up a little bit and not be so intense?
Repeat yourself. I was listening, but I didn't get the full question.
Okay. I'll rephrase because I tend to talk way too much sometimes. So
we're both talkative.
You said kids don't like being controlled, right? But sometimes moms or dads, when they're trying to help, they accidentally get controlling, right? Because they're trying to tell you too much to do. So what advice would you give them for kind of backing off a little bit?
They could accommodate the kids and give them some things they want and make a structure for them so that they get their way, but also they do the things they're supposed to do. For example, when I was about 3 until 5, I had a therapist at Support by Design where we met. My therapist was Sarah Ward, and what we did was, as she was my OT, we took turns choosing what games we played, and what activities we did, like my choice, her choice, my choice, her choice. And like when I wanted to have my choice again, she would firmly say that it was her choice, but when it was my choice, that really felt good as well.
So you knew something was coming and you could help yourself be a little more flexible to what she wanted to work on.
Yes, so we did both things every day. We took turns, and that was really the only therapist who did more of the take turn thing as we went along. Most therapists there would pick the activities we did and then give me my choice at the end.
So you had to push through a lot longer.
Yeah, so in that way, Sarah was really unique.
Okay. So it also sounds like, a good piece of advice is that more often, take those turns and give the choices instead of, like you said, pushing someone to do a lot of things before they can get their reward.
Right. And this, of course, goes to Andrea Binder, maiden name Burstein.
So, okay, so I don't know if maybe our panelists have some questions for you since they've been listening in. I think Aileen wants to ask you something.
Yes, you can ask me anything.
Hi, Leo. So you were talking about all the great things that you're interested and you like to do. And I'm sure your sister has her things that she likes to do. And now that you're both at home and you can't really do what you used to like to do separate, have you discovered new activities that you're enjoying as a family that maybe you want to share with other families that they might want to try?
Yeah, for sure. My sister and I have been playing a lot of Battleship. We've been playing a game called Spot It, where you have to put cards down, and if something on your card versus the card on the ground matches, you have to put it there and say it, but it's not a taking turn game, and whoever runs out of their cards first wins. We've also been playing a family game of bananagrams, which is kind of like a crossword puzzle of creating words, but my sister always wins at that.
That's great.
All right. If you have a question for Leo, anybody, I am going to open up the chat if you are in the Zoom, and I want you to post your comments in the Facebook video. Leo, I just want to take a moment to say, guess what? You are the grand prize winner for the most people watching your live webinar today.
Wow.
So much. I'm really feeling good about that.
Yeah, just on our platforms, not to mention the watch parties that are going on. We've got 28 people just on my screens, and I know we've got other screens going. So you are the big winner. You brought a lot of people to our webinar today, which is so amazing. Danette, did you have a question?
I do. Leo, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. It was great hearing you speak.
It was absolutely my pleasure, and this is the best thing I've done by far in my time of quarantine.
I have a question about your guitar lessons or your guitar. Are you doing that by yourself or are you taking lessons online? How are you working
Lessons
that out?
online, but also practicing by myself, and my dad plays a lot.
Oh, so you both get a chance to play together?
Not together because there's only one guitar in the house we're at, but he plays, so that's kind of what inspired me years ago.
What type of music do you play?
Rock, country rock, stuff along those lines.
That's great. Keep that up. That sounds excellent. And thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
I totally will, and you're more than welcome. And you guys can all interview me again when my book comes out.
That's great.
So do you have a little bit of your book written? Can you give us a sneak peek on what's in there?
What's in there is about my life growing up with autism, who I used to be versus who I am now, how I wasn't really verbal when I was 2, but I'm very verbal now, and giving encouragement to parents and also telling parents more not to punish their kids, but to help them take responsibility.
Okay, so some of the themes you were talking about today, they're definitely things you're passionate about.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when you get this book done, do you have any idea what is it going to be geared towards parents who have kids of certain ages or just anybody who has a child with autism?
Anyone with a child of age of autism, but definitely somewhat targeted at younger kids.
Okay.
So that they can thrive and excel and become the kind of person I am, or someone like me, because no one can be another me.
That is true. So what kind of things, because we knew each other when you were about 5 or so, what kinds of things have helped you along the way as you've gone through school? Or maybe not just through school, but through life too. What what kinds of experiences have really helped you grow?
Building and expanding my social network, and also having someone there to talk to if I really needed something. Because around the time I knew you is when I started becoming more and more verbal and less physical. Because I was getting my language.
And then at school, were there any things that kind of stand out in your mind as having helped you grow, like academically, or kind of shape what you wanted to do as you got older?
Yes, when I was in kindergarten at the downtown middle school, they divided the rooms into colors, and like red, blue, yellow, purple, and I was in the purple room, and I had to see it, a one-on-one therapist named Nikki, and I used to wear a purple hat to represent I was in the purple room and to focus on what I was doing. And that really determined me by far when I was about 6 and 7 years old.
Wow. So it's interesting that you have memories from really such a young age that stand out to you and kind of shape who you are. Because I think sometimes parents don't always think about that when their kids are younger, how many of those little memories are kind of critical and really, stick out as people look back on their lives when they get to be teenagers and adults.
Exactly. And plus, we've got lots of pictures from days like those, and I'm a very visual learner.
Okay. All right. So in that way, the screen works well for you.
For sure.
Are you a more of a book reader or more of a video watcher when you have to learn things?
Video watcher or article reader. I read a lot on Newsella and then take the quiz.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if you've heard about Newsella.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. So like do you find reading on the internet is easier than just reading in a book?
Yeah, for sure. Reading on the internet is more easier than reading in a book. But when I do go on the subways again in a few weeks, Metro North and the subway back to New York, I'm going to read newspapers and books so that I don't really attract too much attention. On Sunday, I took the Green Line in Boston, partially to get me back to the trains, but partially to practice safe behavior for when I go back to New York.
Okay. All right. That's good. So you're taking a break from New York City right now, huh?
Yes, but I'm going back in a few weeks, maybe a little less, depending on the antibodies.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, we have just about 2 minutes left in our webinar, so I gotta do a little wrap up. Are there any final words that you want to say before I give my announcements?
I just wanted to thank you all for letting me do this. I really felt pride and encouragement even just speaking up, and I'm just hoping things will get better soon enough, and that when they are, we should all have a meetup in person to discuss things like this in our lives, and even about my book, and maybe even another interview about it.
All right. I am definitely looking forward to it.
Me too. And it'll be great to catch up again after 13 somewhat years.
I know. Well, the power of the internet. We're never too far away to try to reconnect, especially during moments like this in life.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, Leo, so much for being on our webinar today. I know everybody has really enjoyed listening to you. Like I said, you have a huge audience, so that's fantastic that you brought so many people to the webinar today. And again, just for our announcements tomorrow, we have a lawyer coming to speak with us about some of the new laws and the information that's come down related to IDEA. And what that means for at least the residents in Connecticut who have children with special needs, things that you need to be aware of, and things that you need to think about over the next several months as we go through this time and the transition back to school. So please tune in and hear all the great things she has to say, and then come back again with us on Friday at 12 o'clock for Dr. Terry DeLisa. She's going to be talking about some really practical situations she's been running into and how we can use collaborative problem solving in those moments to help our middle schoolers and our teenagers and any child that you're really able to have a collaborative conversation with through some of the things that they might be struggling with and things that might be on their mind. And that actually goes very well with some of the things Leo was saying today about really, giving encouragement, but also listening to your child and coming up with a plan to kind of have shared control over what's happening throughout the day. So she'll be talking with us from the professional perspective on Friday. So thanks everyone for joining in. I hope you got a lot out of this webinar, and we will be back again tomorrow at 12. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
And I absolutely enjoyed this interview.
Okay.
We enjoyed
so
you.
much. Leo, I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to read your book.
I
Yes.
also can't wait for you to read it.
Yay.
All right, awesome. Okay, we got to
Bye.
sign off, and we will see you soon.
Okay, so do I click the leave meeting button?
Yes.
Yep, I'm gonna shut down the whole thing.